Wow, I just figured out how to turn the autofocus off on my camera so it doesn't do that thing it always does. That's awesome. So, guess I should talk about the election from yesterday, which is still going on today. They're still counting it. Probably for 3 or 4 days they'll still be counting. I don't know. And then you got to go through all the court battles and crap because Trump's gonna lose probably, and he's already filed lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think, about not getting access to some of the ballots. But first, I want to show you this. This is not really related to the election, but I was watching Fox News a minute ago, and they had this sign language interpreter on there. And this is not from that. This is from Hurricane Irma. But it was a guy who was doing a similar thing. And these sign language guys nowadays are so over the top, it's distracting. And it's I don't remember sign language being like this back in the days when you only hear you only have sign language interpreters when it's something from the government, I guess, because they really want to make sure everybody hears it, even deaf people. But we have the technology now, you can just caption anything with words, and even this, it has captions on it, but there's still a sign language guy. Wait, look at this. Here, look at this asshole. They always do this thing. It looks like one of those TikTok moves, like one of those wrapping a thing around your head and doing the boxing TikTok dance. It looks like what he's doing. Look, there's words. This is all closed captioned. What's the point of the guy doing the... You can just read it, dude. I guess it's for illiterate deaf people. That's what it's for. What is that important? Alright, I'm going to stop this before I get too much footage. But I also wanted to point out, this is why liberals or Democrats are stupid. If I go on foxnews.com, I get right in. I can just start watching stuff. I can watch videos. I can see all this stuff. It kind of says enable ads on it or something. But if you go to CNN, MSNBC, I've always all these liberal places, you try to go to them, and it's they want you to subscribe, just use their website, or they want you to enable ads, or if you have any ad blocker on, they're fuck you, get out of here, you can't come to this site. It's they want your money so bad. Don't they realize they're gonna actually promote their own beliefs or ideology or whatever if they let people look at it, instead of charging people money for it? Oh, it's so outdated. Anyway, I made a quick video yesterday of some kind of weird thing I found on the election results. I'm gonna show you that now, and I'll get back to me in a second. So I'm making this video tonight before I'm probably gonna make a video about the election tomorrow, but I thought I would show you this real quick because it's fresh. I don't know exactly what's going on, but shows Joe Biden up 131 to 92 at this point. It's 9 o'clock and I gotta go to bed. But Maryland, it's only 4% reporting, but they've already called it for Joe Biden, even though he's down 38.5% to 60% for Donald Trump. How do you call it for somebody who's losing by a massive margin? And then Virginia, he's losing by almost 12% pretty much. 49% reporting in Virginia. And they've already called it for Joe Biden. None of the other states are like that where Trump's losing, but they called it for him anyway. So I don't know if anybody knows what's going on there, if it's something with the mail-in votes. Look like they're going to be massively in favor of Biden, but they haven't officially counted them or something. But how do you call it with 4% of the vote reporting it? Anyway, it doesn't make no sense. I think it said earlier it was 3,000 to 4,000. It's oh, we've called it. It's going Biden. What? So Nebraska's neck and neck. Kansas is pretty close. Florida, it's pretty close still, but it's 91%. So it was Biden, now it's swinging Trump, but then I don't know how the votes are being counted. It's probably going to take several days for it to come out all the way. But whoever concedes first, they may fuck up. Whoa. I already showed Nebraska, didn't I? Yeah, the other one was real close too. Missouri, 49 to 49, neck and neck, 24%. The one I was really interested in was the Senate race in Kentucky, which is Mitch McConnell. See, I see it as Trump's
a problem, but he's actually just a puppet. And Mitch McConnell and the super elites are like the puppet masters that actually cause most of the problems in the world. And Mitch McConnell is a career politician who doesn't want term limits, and he just like never loses because of Kentucky. I don't know why. But like you'll see Trump sometimes when he kind of looks up into the sky and kind of like sticks his nose up like he's looking at his masters, almost like he doesn't know what to say. He like looks around and kind of just does this smart ass look, like to make it look like he knows what he's talking about, where he knows that he's just like brain dead pretty much, because like he's not really making decisions. You can kind of see it in the way he acts, like he's being controlled. And then now we're doing this thing where maybe not all of the electoral votes for a state are going to go to the same candidate. They're going to like split them up between districts, which is I guess good, because I've always seen it like electoral colleges are kind of biased towards rich white people. Actually, I just recently kind of discovered this, because I always thought it was good. Like all these Midwestern states, like Montana, let's say, or South Dakota, they should have just as much of a right as the other states like California and New York, just because a lot of people live there. They shouldn't have any votes. What I used to think. They should have kind of the same amount of votes. But then I started thinking about it, like, what is a state really? It's just a bunch of land. And if there's not anybody living there, that means there's less people that live there, but there's more land that's owned by people. So when you give like the same amount of voting power to a state that's out in the Midwest, you're pretty much giving it to wealthy landowners, because that's the kind of people that live out in the middle of nowhere. People that own like giant tracts of farmland. So you're like giving more voting power to rich white people. I really think we ought to be in like a meritocracy, but also like you have to show that you're smart enough to vote. Or you take some kind of a test or write out some kind of an essay or something about why you think a candidate over time is going to like produce good results for the country, which I know it's really unreasonable and it's like not feasible. Like you couldn't do that in the amount of time it takes to vote, but like a smarter person should have a greater amount of votes, or like the vote should be worth more points or something than some dumbass that's just voting because they saw a yard sign. Like who the hell is their vote is decided by seeing a yard sign? Is anybody ever like, I don't know who to vote for. Oh, here's a Trump sign in the yard. I guess I'm going to vote for this guy. Anybody ever? Has the yard sign ever changed your mind on an election? Made you vote for somebody because you saw a sign in somebody's yard? Or an electioneering, like somebody standing outside a polling station and told you like to vote for somebody, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I will then. All right, now that you're back to me, I'm assuming, what was I thinking about the whole election? Did I talk about Mitch McConnell last night? Because like I was telling my mom, like I didn't vote. I never do vote, because if you don't vote for 7 years, you get taken off of jury duty. So I haven't had to go jury duty my whole life. And I don't remember there ever being a good presidential candidate that I wanted to vote for that made it to the final two. Like Bernie Sanders, yeah, I would have voted for him. Would have voted for who was it? The guy before him, Ross Perot. Back in the day, he was also like this. But who's Rand Paul? No, Ron Paul. Ron Paul I like. Rand Paul didn't like as much. But people like that. I made this whole like fake presidential list one time that I thought like if these people had been president, the country would have been like in good shape. Yeah, so Amy McGrath was running against Mitch McConnell, and I guess if the other guy had won the primary, he would have had a better chance. But Mitch McConnell, I think, is the source of most of the evil in our country. I see like Trump is like a puppet, and Mitch McConnell and his cronies are the puppet masters. There's a lot of people involved pulling the strings on Trump, but I don't know who at all is involved with it. It's probably some like real deep state stuff, because they also let him run free a little bit, because all the tweeting and stuff and the weird things that Trump does, the weird kind of like going to that church with the Bible during the protests, that's kind of like, I think Trump did that on his own. But there's certain things that they do, like the Supreme Court nominee that they just promoted, Amy Klobuchar. That's probably some like really elite people running the show that decided on it. Because I don't think Trump's sitting there going through documents of like who's the best Supreme Court justice. I don't think he has any clue about any of that stuff. He just like believes whatever anybody tells him at the moment. So here's where the Democrats fucked up. They kind of ignored, they were trying to like stop this Supreme Court nominee from getting in, and then they just kind of let it happen because they wanted to focus on the election or something. But now that they get to the election, they realize even if they win the election, they have to win a Supreme Court battle, which now they've let the Republicans own the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court's going to obviously let them win, right? Because it's all Republicans now. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was saying they could just expand the Supreme Court, and there's precedent for it in law, but nobody's ever going to do that. Anyway, who's going to win the election, I guess? It looks like, if we go to the results, what is it right now? It's 5:30. It says Biden is at 264. He needs 270 to win. Nevada, he's ahead. That's 6 votes. That'll do it. Georgia, he's close actually in Georgia. North Carolina, he's pretty close, but it looks like Trump's going to win these two. Then it comes down to Pennsylvania, which is going Trump. But in Alaska, is that even going to matter? That's going to Trump, looks like. But the thing about Pennsylvania is that the Pennsylvania County, I think it is, or Philadelphia, wherever Philadelphia County is, it was kind of one of the latest ones to report, I think. And that's going to be like a lot of mail-in ballots for Biden. So, I mean, I don't have a horse in the race. I don't like either one of them. I hate them both. They're both horrible. Here's what bothers me that nobody's even talked about. Donald Trump doesn't have to be the nominee for the Republican Party. You're telling me. See, you think about the president. He's the guy that runs the show. He's the big executive of the executive branch of the United States. Makes all the big decisions. The Army, he has the nuclear codes. This should be the best and brightest among us. He should be like an ex-astronaut or something, like with the qualifications that an astronaut would have to have. Plus like a law degree, maybe an engineer or a physicist or something. No, they pick a TV star that fired people on TV because it's a popularity contest. It's like, this is the best you can offer us to run our country? Why do we even listen to the Republican Party at all? They're obviously morons and idiots. These are the kind of people that if you read like Reddit posts about, I like to watch this one called Malicious Compliance. So it's like these companies have stupid rules and people just like go along with them and make the company realize how stupid they are. It's old thinking kind of a thing. And like the people that run the country are these kind of people. Like innovators show up and like in the tech fields and they just humiliate. It's like Blockbuster. Our government is like Blockbuster. Why does it still exist? It doesn't need to. We don't need like people to represent us when we have the internet anymore. We don't have horse-drawn carriages. We don't have the Pony Express sending our messages to our reps in Washington, D.C. We've got the internet. There's no point in it. We don't need any of it. What was my point? So the Republican Party's the best they can offer us is an ex-TV show host, a failed millionaire. And my parents are like sycophants. Here's what happened. My brother used to live near Nashville, Tennessee, and he'd like go out in his garage and he would listen to all these political radio shows, and he got into politics. My mom and dad didn't really care about politics. Then he got living with them for a while, got them arguing about politics, got them into politics, and then they started watching Fox News. And they kind of got brainwashed into the Fox News cult. And just like I said, since Fox News is free, or they have like, they're really blatantly putting a lot of hot blonde people on there, and I think that turns people on and gets a lot of people to watch Fox News. There's not a lot of black people on Fox, so if you're kind of racist, everybody that racists like Fox. I don't know if my parents are racist. They probably are. I don't know. So anyway, the Republican Party, Trump barely won last time, right? Or did he win? I don't remember how close it was in 2016, but Trump had this really big ad. It was like a big rousing speech and stuff. It's really pretty epic. I just watched the other day on Joe Rogan's podcast. And then his one for this year, he's dancing to the YMCA song. Doing this kind of dance a lot. And look that up if you haven't seen it. Just Trump YMCA dance. And it's a shit show. And then on the other end of it, Joe Biden, like, they both have the same kind of problems. Like, the whole thing with, like, Joe Biden smelling young girls and being a pedophile or whatever. Trump has pictures with, what's his name? Jeffrey Epstein. Like, he's like, they're both pedophiles probably.
Everybody that's rich or elite, apparently pedophilia is the thing if you're rich. That's the thing to do. And I don't know. They probably both are. The whole thing with Hunter Biden, the cronyism, the nepotism, whatever, the using your power to try to influence Russia or whatever was involved with that. I don't really keep up with it. Trump has the same problem with his taxes. Like, he only paid like $750 in taxes. It's like, he ripped us off for millions of dollars and everybody just doesn't care. They're just like fine with it. Like, sure, whatever. And then he tried to claim that he paid his taxes like for millions of dollars ahead of time, like years in advance. Have you ever heard of anybody that pays their taxes years in advance? No. Nobody pays their taxes if they don't know if they have to or not. I mean, how do you believe this kind of shit? So anyway, I don't care who wins. I think we're screwed either way. I mean, probably going to have a civil war. The environment's fucked. Even if like Joe Biden won, the environment's probably fucked. Because the Democrats always say that they want to do stuff and then they don't actually do anything. I was looking at a list of stuff Trump actually accomplished during his 4 years, but I guess he did a few things that he said he was going to do, but he didn't do anything like with making the Mexicans build the border wall, or what was the other thing? Oh, like putting Hillary Clinton in jail. He didn't do any of that. He just kind of abandoned it, which you knew he would. So they're both huge liars, and Joe Biden's also like pretty much a zombie. He has like mental problems, can't remember anything. The whole corn pop thing, I have no idea what he was talking about, and just like blurts out a bunch of nonsense sometimes. It's better than Trump, I guess. Or I don't know, maybe just having Trump in there is like, maybe nobody really has reins on him, and he's just like freewheeling it. Maybe that's better. I don't know. What I do know is the election is probably fucking rigged. Like, there's all these discrepancies with, like, I was just hearing about people like that didn't put their district number on their ballot. Somebody was like filling them all in for them and correcting them and then casting the ballot for them. Like, I guess you're supposed to disqualify ballots if they're not all the way filled in, which is bullshit. Like, if somebody intended to vote for somebody, they should get to cast their vote. On the other hand, you've got somebody that may be changing the vote because they're like taking it and transcribing it onto a fresh ballot because this one's kind of damaged or something. Like, who knows what they're actually writing, and they're not letting people in to watch it, the poll watchers or whatever. So who knows what's going on? Why even go vote if you don't know if your vote's going to be legit? That's why it all needs to be electronic. You need to be able to look up your vote and make sure that it's counted in somewhere, and it's got like a confirmation check mark next to it or something, and you can see everybody. Well, you shouldn't be able to see everybody else's vote. Or should you? Maybe that should be public knowledge that you could like do a FOIA request on. I don't know. Here's another thing that we definitely need is standardized ballots. If we're going to do this stupid fucking paper ballot shit, which we should be done with like 10 years ago, you can't have them like with the Mitt Romney election, I think was it John Kerry, where they had like Bush on one side and like Kerry on the other side, and then in the middle you punch a hole through the middle, and it's hard to tell like which one you're punching on. And if you don't punch it through all the way, if the chad's hanging out, then it doesn't count because maybe it just fell out or maybe somebody touched it wrong. It's like perforated cardboard. This is what we want to depend our democracy on? Perforated cardboard? What the fuck are we doing? This is like 2020. We should be living in Jetsons times with a fucking robot maid flying around in cars and skateboards that hover. What are we doing with fucking paper ballots still? Anyway, I was at work today and I heard somebody talking about Mitch McConnell, Amy Klobuchar thing, or not, Amy McGrath thing. And they were saying like, oh, Mitch McConnell, he's from Kentucky, and I don't know where Amy McGrath's from. I don't know if she was born here. And I was thinking to myself, well, I know a lot of fucking copperhead snakes that were born in Kentucky, but I wouldn't vote for them. It don't matter where you're fucking born, dude. It's like the whole thing with Obama not being from Hawaii. Maybe he was from Kenya or something. Like, who cares? I know it's a law that you have to be born as a citizen, but if you've lived here long enough, you can become a citizen. It shouldn't have to, like, where your parents had sex or where they ended up. Like, if you're, like, one of those expatriates or whatever they're called, what do you call those people that, like, travel all over the world, and your parents had their kid, like, on a plane or, like, in another country, like, does that still count because you weren't born on American soil? You can't run for president because of it? It's so stupid. Anyway, yeah, I was against the electoral
or I was for the electoral colleges system, but then I realized that it's actually just like giving wealthy landowners way more power, voting power. And also, you got these weird like super delegates that they had last time. That was like, even if like a state, you don't have to give all of the votes that the state has to one candidate. You could split them up if you want, which I don't think they've done this year. But I saw like a map. I was watching like Steven Crowder. He got pretty cringy. He was doing some kind of MAGA dance or something that was so embarrassing. But like he had like one state, I think Nebraska was like split up into districts or stripes or something. Like they were going to like send half of their electoral votes to each candidate, depending on what counties voted. And then you have this whole thing with like historically every urban area votes Democratic, and every like if you live out in the middle of nowhere, you don't want as much government because you don't want people telling you what to do because it's not going to affect you anyway because you live out in the middle of fucking nowhere. You don't have people living next to you. But if you live in the middle of a city, you want like more law and order and more big government, so you vote Democratic. So maybe we should have two presidents and like they both have to agree before they can do anything or something. I don't know. But like this whole thing with the Supreme Court is kind of bugging me. We got these checks and balances, but then we let the president elect the Supreme Court, which is like it's supposed to be putting him in check. Like you have people that make the law, the legislature, and you got people that execute the law, the executive branch. Like they can like write laws in or veto them. Then you got the judicial branch that can either decide if it actually is a law or not once you make it a law because they can interpret it. So you got three different sets of like paper, rock, scissors going on, but you're letting the executive branch control the judiciary. And then you got the Congress pretty much running who the president is, which is why I think like Mitch McConnell is the main source of this problem. We got to get rid of Mitch McConnell. Like he's opposed to term limits and health care for everybody. I mean, he's bought and paid for by a lot of big lobbyists, like the drug companies, I think. I've heard a lot of bad shit about him over the years. I'm always hearing about bad shit about people like, who's it? Like, was it Lindsey Graham? No. Rick Perry from Texas. Heard a lot of bad shit about him. And Mike Pence. Like, he used to be like a big, like, religious zealot kind of a guy, trying to get church church in schools and Bible in schools and all this bullshit. And then Trump picks it for his VP. Like, nobody even knows about this crap because they don't really keep up with it. But, I don't know. Can't even talk to people anymore. People don't even know shit. Here's another thing. What about the lawsuits that Trump's filing? Is the taxpayer going to have to pay for all of his lawyers' legal fees? Or because Joe Biden, he's like trying to raise the money, like fight for Biden or something. So Trump, we know he's like pretty much broke, right? Because he's not really a millionaire. He just kind of like has all this property that's like in debt or something. I'm not sure how it works, but like, can a super PAC pay for legal fees? I mean, I guess they can. I'm not sure how that works. Because I don't want to pay for it. I don't want my taxes going towards it. Saw this thing that said in Kentucky, it said when you vote, Kentucky wins. Something like that. And I'm like, no, you don't. There's no way to win because nobody's proposed a good candidate since I've been alive. I mean, when I was born, I think Reagan was president. Yeah. I remember being in, like, kindergarten. And it was, like, Reagan versus, what was his name? Started with an M. Mondale? Walter Mondale. And, like, this was in 1984. I think. Maybe I was in first grade. Kindergarten, first grade. I didn't even know at the time that Reagan was a former actor or whatever, but he seemed like a good guy. He did that whole thing, tear down that wall with Gorbachev and all that. You guys don't even know about the wine-stained forehead dude, Gorbachev. Oh my god, things I know from being old. Oh shit. Good times. But, yeah, ever since then, it was like George Bush was kind of good, but then we figure out he's in like this owl cult out in the Bohemian Grove, and then his son's a fucking idiot. And then trying to like establish a Bush dynasty when Jeb Bush ran for president again. It's like you can't trust none of these assholes.